Welcome to the closing hours of Media Day here at the Canadian Grand Prix. People shuffling out of here, but Tim Hauraney and I, we're sticking around. There's been a lot of stuff that's already happened on day one here. Everything from Ocon's future to Sainz's future to how McLaren might do. But let's start on the biggest news of the day, which has to be the FIA releasing the regulations for 2026. There's a lot of stuff to unpack there. Remember in the car, you were desperately trying to unpack it before we did this first hit. Now that you've had some time to really look at it.
I haven't even had that much time to look at it because like the document is like this thick.
It's a big, yeah, there's a lot of paperwork to it. Of all the paperwork that you have kind of combed through so far, what's one of the more exciting changes, one of the biggest changes that you kind of see in there?
There's a lot, like you had said, Z, but I would say losing the DRS for me is a plus. I think that's on the better end and the direction that F1 should be trending towards. Old school racing guy. I'm not huge on the DRS. I like the days where you could outwit, you have to outthink your opponent and not just have easy DRS passes. But I'm encouraged to see the cars get lighter. And I'm also encouraged to see the wheelbase of it get narrower as well. Like, we go to a place like Monaco, you and I discussed this, and it's hard to pass. And a lot of fans, are kind of a little bit bored of Monaco.
They don't like it, yeah.
Nothing wrong with Monaco. Qualifying there is absolutely incredible, but the race itself obviously needing to be spiced up a little bit. But having a narrower car should help a little bit with that. Again, it's probably not as narrow as I think they probably could have gone. So, when we go through these regulation changes, let me put it to you this way. What do you think of the cars now?
I think, and it's easy for me to say this as a fan versus you as a former driver,
Totally.
they're very large cars. It's a very popular talking point to say, there's no passing because of the size of these things, again, when you're looking at more traditional and classic circuits. But I am kind of curious, because you fight back on this all the time. You're saying the size actually adds in a positive way, obviously, to the racing, because you don't want to listen to me on what the changes are. They want to listen to someone like you who actually knows the science and engineering behind it. The size does help. It's not just hurting it.
Yeah, I think it's one part of it, obviously, is the safety aspect, right? And we can never have enough safety in Formula One and in motorsports in general. It's a dangerous sport. Let's say it how it is. But having them a little bit more robust is a good thing. Protecting the drivers is a good thing. I think with this generation of car and this generation of regulation that we are currently in, I just feel it's a little too soon to leave it. We haven't really experienced this regulation set where we've gotten true convergence. We've got convergence between the top three teams now, which is great. But if we go to next season, we're probably going to have convergence between the top four cars, and you're going to have closer battles. But then, let's say you carry that regulation over into 2026, that convergence is going to be even more. You're probably looking at top 6, top 7. You're allowing more teams to catch up and close in and allowing them to fight each other more. And so that's why I think when it comes to regulation changes, they're just happening way too soon now. I think regulations need to breathe more. I think you need to give them more time and allow teams to catch up and put on a great show, because that's what we want to see.
Yeah, obviously your mind kind of drifts to 2021, which is one of the greatest spectacles of a season there was, because it was that final year of regulations, and then things flipped over. Let's flip now to 2025, where obviously there's a lot of shuffling around in the driver market. One such driver, Esteban Ocon. Now, he's too good to leave Formula One, no, Tim? Where do you see him ending up, though, if he does stay in?
It's a great question, and I think one of the things with Esteban, and I sat with him earlier today, and he was swarmed by media.
There was a lot of people looking to hear from him. Yeah.
Everybody wanting to know where he's going to end up, if he's going to even end up in Formula One. I hope he sticks around in F1, because he is a very, very good driver, and he brings a lot to a team. I could see him going to a team like Haas. For me, that makes a lot of sense. That's a team that's in sort of this rebuilding phase now with Günther Steiner out. You have Io Komatsu who's kind of come in. He's taken this team in a little bit different direction when it comes to getting components to the car. And I think losing a driver like Nico Hülkenberg is a big loss for that team because of that experience that he has. And so I think the more you look at it, the more that team needs a talented driver, which Esteban Ocon is, and experience, which Esteban Ocon has.
Another team kind of on the up and up, certainly currently during this season, although they've taken a little bit of a step back since last season, Williams. Let's move to Carlos Sainz as well there. Those two seem to be a pair that a lot of people are discussing. Of all the options out there for Carlos Sainz, which most interests you?
I would say Williams is a good fit. I would also say Sauber as well. I mean, as a driver, and in a driver like Carlos Sainz, he wants stability. So where is he going to be able to go where he's going to get that long-term deal, that contract that's going to keep him comfortable so he can just focus on racing and not having to focus on, oh, my contract is up. Now I got to, sweat over where am I going to go next. And so for Carlos, I think taking a closer look at the Sauber deal, which is soon going to be Audi in 2026, what does that look like? What will that team look like by 2026? Are they going to be competitive? Chances are probably not. I mean, you have a new engine manufacturer who's coming into Formula One. They're taking over an entire team, and it takes time to be good in F1. It doesn't just happen in 1 year. It takes several years to be competitive. If you look at Williams, that's an interesting option from the standpoint that they've been in F1 for a very long time. They have most of their things sorted out. I would say one of the big things at Williams is infrastructure. It's an older factory. They need a lot of work done in there. James Vowles, that's one of the main things that he's been doing. And if I'm Carlos Sainz, I'm taking a look at that. Where is this team going to be in 2026? And which team is going to be further up the grid? And that's how I make my decision.
How exciting would that be just to see Williams back up there again,
awesome.
fighting? It'd be awesome. Speaking of teams back there and fighting, it's a three-way race in the Constructors as well as in the Drivers' Championship because McLaren and Ferrari are pushing. It's one of the best stories heading into this race. There's finally some parity to really go off of here. We're not just talking about best of the rest like we did all last year. So, of those two teams, McLaren and Ferrari, who are you most excited to see this weekend because you think this really could be their weekend?
I would say Ferrari, and I would particularly say their two drivers, and Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc. I mean, Charles Leclerc obviously coming off of a huge win in Monaco. We got to sit down, talk to him today, and he's in good spirits. He has, good mindset. I think getting that win in Monaco, one of those boxes checked for him in his career to put on the CV, very important. And coming into Canada, I think this is a track that really suits the Ferrari. I could actually see Ferrari being the faster team here. Any way you cut it, the top three teams are going to be extremely close here this weekend. Any way you slice it. But I think when you come into any race, and we said this in the car, any race we come into for the rest of this season, Red Bull is going to be the favorite, and it's going to be every other team of that Ferrari and McLaren putting pressure on them and Max Verstappen to make a mistake.
Well, how do you really know that this circuit really, really fits Ferrari? Well, no one has won here more than Ferrari in the circuit's history with 14 wins. They could make it 15 if they manage that on Sunday.